You're absolutely right. As you know, as we mentioned in our conversation not too long ago, the Democrats lost the Senate seat in the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Now they do not have a 60 Senate vote, and therefore it's not a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. What effect this loss will have on the health care reform legislation as it is been passed by the Senate, but the Congress is not sure they can pass it. So
Well,
where do we go from here?
Well, it's all hinged, if I may, on the elections. We're in an election year. This is a midterm election, whereas your audience knows all of the House of Representatives is up, and I believe a third of the Senate is up.
I believe so.
And they are afraid to go too far this way, too far that way, and the president is caught in a difficult bind because he has the people who elected him on the left want a much more open and much more liberal, progressive way to deal with health care. And those on the right want less. And the Republicans want nothing.
Unfortunately,
and
that's the
they
case.
will just say, we'll stop anything we can. And the president has made some concessions to the insurance industry. He's made some concessions to Big Pharma, which is the pharmaceuticals, where people on the left are upset. And on the right, they think it's going to cost them money. They're going to get their health care taken away. The problem is that this administration, with all due respect to some of the wonderful people I work every day at the White House, they have not been able to articulate exactly what this president's plan is. And if you don't articulate it, you create a vacuum. And when you create a vacuum, everything can jump into that vacuum. And then they will take the message and they will say, this is what it's about. And what do? Then you have to get defensive. So we'll see what happens. The State of the Union is a very big event on Wednesday night, and I'm sure the president will be addressing this.
So the communication has been not their strength.
Well, I think the communications has been very powerful in the campaign mode.
But they're in governing mode right now.
As you know, this expression, you campaign in poetry and you govern in prose. It's a good adage. It's an adage that's been around for a while because it's true. The president is bringing back some of his campaign operatives to be able to articulate what the message is and also to reach to the people's conscience as to how things will affect them. And I think, again, this a new foundation for America, a new way of looking. You know, everyone wants change, and it's very easy to beat up the person who's in office. Because if you're not happy with the system, then you want to attack the guy who's ahead, whether it's Bush or Clinton or Obama. The fact is that people really now vote in terms of their own pocketbook. They vote in terms of their own lives, whether their child can have a pair of shoes or get braces this week, or my sick mom, can she take her pills, or will I get a job? You know, there are tax credits for retirement, but if you're not making any salary, you don't have any money to put away.
True.
And it's a difficult time. It's a difficult time in the century, all over the world, as a matter of fact. And I cover a lot of this in my course at Georgetown University, in the Graduate School of Foreign Service, which is called Politics and the Media, an American-European perspective, where I've got about eight students, and we talk about how things developed politically and in terms of media, basically from the end of World War II, and what went on in Europe and what went on in the U.S., and how campaign finance, especially with the new Supreme Court 5-4 verdict, I should say judgment, that campaign finance they basically threw a cold blanket over campaign finance reform by saying, you know, they opened it up to corporations. They can contribute as much as they want, when they want, how long they want. So it really kind of puts a damper on campaign finance reform. And the students, young people, as many of your audience are, I'm sure, will look and say, you know, how does this affect my future? Does it mean those with the most cash get to have the microphone? What about the average guy? You know, how does the average man and woman survive? And then they'll say, well, the lobbyists represent you. It's a vicious cycle. But without real campaign finance reform, there's problems. And I think this president is going to meet some of those problems.
You alluded to about the midterm elections. You said that the U.S. House Representatives, all of them are up for election. And you mentioned about 1/3 of the Senate is also up for elections. What do you think the Democrats will need to do in the midterm election to preserve the majority in both houses?
Well, Frank, it's a simple word. It's called win.
It's called win, yeah.
And then you'll say, well, what do you mean win? How do you win?
How do you go about winning?
Well, you have to go about winning. First of all, the campaign operations going on at the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee,
the DSCC,
and the DCCC, also their mates in the Congressional Campaign Committee, and the Democratic National Committee. Those three committees need to really focus on their candidates, the candidates they want to put forth. The many incumbents are leaving. I think there are more incumbents in
both parties.
In both parties. I think it changes every day, Frank. When you read the latest info, there are a few Republicans resigning or quitting or retiring. There's a few Democrats who are retiring. There's more in the House on both sides that are retiring. And what hasn't happened out of the committees is a real focus on the kinds of candidates they need to remain, to keep those seats. The fact that former Attorney General Ms. Coakley
from
Massachusetts was, they thought that she would just waltz into Teddy Kennedy's seat. I don't know if it was arrogance or complacency, but the fact is that I'm not speaking partisanly here, but I'm speaking as a political strategist. Unheard of, uncalled for, and they were left with their hand on the switch. Asleep at the switch.
Asleep at the switch.
Asleep at the switch.